Hello, so this is going to be the current weekly COVID video, and yes, I know I need to cut my hair. I'll get around to doing that in next week. So obviously the UK is not in a good place with coronavirus cases and deaths at this point. So the deaths today, I don't think they've done the actual death count for today yet when I'm filming this, but I imagine it'll be about 1,000 to 2,000. That's what most days are at the moment. So that'll probably put us up to about 105,000 deaths. So we hit the 100,000 death mark, which was obviously not a good thing, and we hit that a few days ago, about 3 or 4 days ago. And, that was one of the things where I think I said about a month ago, I expect that to happen before the end of January, and it did. I did always have the few people that said, oh, no, it won't get that high. But I think most of us knew that, if you could look at how many cases were currently going on, the percentage of the cases you get where you get deaths, you could work out that you'd get 100k deaths quite easily, which is obviously not a good thing. But there is some good news. So the good news is, despite how bad Britain's been at everything else, the vaccinations are going well. So I think per something like, well, however they do it, like per 100 people in the population vaccinated, we're at like plus 10 now, aren't we? Which is good. Israel's doing the best. They're at like 50% of the population vaccinated now, but the UK is basically at 10% of the population or so that's at least had their first jab. Lots of other countries in Europe at like 1 to 2%, so that's very good. Because obviously the more people vaccinated, the less likely they are to die from corona. So obviously there's been the controversy about the jabs, where do you give a person, like, as many people as possible one jab and then get the second vaccinations given to them later on, or do you do it, one jab 3 weeks later, the second jab, but less people get vaccinated? The UK is going for the option now of just vaccinating as many people with at least one dose as possible. Now, that sounds bad, and I initially thought that was bad, but apparently the good news is when you've at least had one vaccine, your probability of surviving corona if you get it badly is a lot better. So I think the idea is get as many people to survive it as possible, even if they have a rough time with it. And then, the more vulnerable people hopefully get their second jab sooner. My granddad's now had his first jab, so that's good. So he's basically had, his initial vaccine. Apparently it takes, they reckon, about 3 weeks once you've had the first jab, up to 3 weeks, before, your immune system's as good as it's going to be against corona. So, you're still quite vulnerable for it in the first 3 weeks. Now, sadly, there's a load of bullshit politics going on with vaccinations, and I don't know the full story, but it's pretty pathetic. From what I understand, it's because Britain put a big order in with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine before a lot of EU countries did, because they'd not even approved the vaccine at that point. They're now demanding that they should have the vaccines, not Britain. And I guess it's just a first come, first serve thing. If our government at least did something right and ordered a load of vaccines before the European Union did, it stands to reason we should get them first. It's a case of, wow, yeah, you might have ordered them first, but we want them first, you don't get them. So there's now tit for tat going on with, like, blocking vaccines going to various countries. You know, Typical bullshit politics stuff, I guess, but, And the other good news is I think there's been more vaccines that have now, passed phase 3 clinical trials and have been approved and found to have, 80 to 90% efficacy, which is good news because, the more vaccines that are available, some might be good for people with certain allergies, some might be cheaper to produce, because the problem with the original Pfizer one is because it has to be stored in such a cold temperature, it's very logistically hard to hand out. Whereas the Oxford AstraZeneca one is much easier because you can have it done in pharmacies or like GPs, or sports halls, things like that. So the more vaccines they can get out that, are just standard ones that can sit in a fridge and then people can be vaccinated, the better. So the English strain, whatever you want to call it, the Kent strain, is spreading to a few other countries now quite badly. There's some good Dr. John Campbell videos on it, but I think it's Portugal now that's going crazy with our sort of strain of it. And there's a Brazilian strain as well as a South African strain. The good news so far is they think most of the vaccines work against most of these strains, but some are less effective against some of the strains than the original COVID-19 strain. So it's going to be a case now, I think we're going to be in lockdown for long haul. The sooner people get vaccinated and we can get out of this nightmare, the better. But it looks like the first maybe 4 to 6 months of 2021 are going to be a bit bleak in most countries, because it's literally going to be a case of lockdowns until we can vaccinate enough people. We don't have to worry about COVID. And I suppose hope that we don't get a mutation of it that's vaccine proof, because then that would be a bit of a problem, wouldn't it?